I need to go live here. Okay. Go live there. Just by any chance, do you hear this now?
Best bits.
Hey, no, I don't.
Damn, Paul!
That's fantastic.
I was like, oh, really? That worked out? No, it didn't. You are first, Bobo, but you have to do it after the Stream Elements thing. Otherwise, it doesn't count as first.
You're even before Stream Elements.
Yeah.
He is.
Oh, my goodness. There you go. Now you get the little achievement thing. All right. So, I'm going to do... Let's see. How can I do this so I can see everyone? I guess that works. All right. Let's see. I think... Okay, why won't you move? I need you to move. Come on. There we go. So, Paul, do you feel like you want to practice the opening skit at all?
Sure, we can do a once run through if you want.
All right, so we are recording. Sorry to not include you again, Nate, in the opening skit. I'm sure you're very, very frustrated by that.
It's all good.
Do better.
And I was saying real quick before we get into it, Nate, I was saying to Ashley, I don't think you and her had really interacted, but she said that you did have some interaction when we were doing the ship's logs. So
yeah, when we were doing the audio drama stuff.
Okay,
Yep.
okay,
for sure.
There was at least one time.
How come MVP doesn't work?
Hello again.
Hello again.
Well, I don't know, Paul. Let's see.
That's something to tackle tomorrow.
Yeah, it's
Let's rock this jump!
timer start MVP nominations MVP.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't
sorry.
know. Yeah,
I distracted the squirrel.
Yeah, you did. Gee.
There's no winning.
I don't know why it's not working for you, Paul. But okay, then let's go ahead and just do the opening skit. So anytime you're ready, Paul.
Can we have Nate Henderson back on the podcast if he promises not to be evil?
You know what? That's not a bad idea. Who else can we ask not to be evil on the podcast? My wife? Your brother?
I'm right here, Francisco, and if you call me evil again, I will have to resort to violence. So how about we charge ahead with episode 316 of the Retro Rewind podcast?
Yeah, I like that.
You want me to go younger?
Actually, yes, if you could, Paul.
That's not a bad idea.
Younger.
That's not a bad
Perfect.
idea.
Do that, please.
All right.
All right.
Can we have Nate Henderson back on the podcast if he promises not to be evil?
You know, that's not a bad idea. Who else can we ask not to be evil on the podcast? Let me do that again. Who else can we ask not to be evil on the podcast? My wife? Your brother?
I'm right here, Francisco, and if you call me evil again, I will have to resort to violence. So how about we charge ahead with this episode of the... Oh, sorry. I need to redo it.
That's fine. We also need to do 5 seconds of silence.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, so after you say Retro Rewind podcast, we'll do 5 seconds silence.
Okay.
I'll do the
So,
intro.
do you want me to do it all over again or just that last line?
Just, so how about we charge ahead with the episode?
So how about we charge ahead with episode 316 of the Retro Rewind podcast?
Let's try it again.
Let me try that one more time because I'm stumbling on my syllables.
How about 2 more times?
Why not? So how about we charge ahead with episode 316 of the Retro Rewind podcast?
Yeah.
All right. That sounds good. Hey, Ken, by the way. And so, guys, we're going to do 5 seconds of silence. Don't mute yourself. It's just so that I can take your ambient noise and remove it after in post-processing.
Hey, Francisco.
Yes, Nate.
I just realized my little heater, it just kicked on. Can I turn it off here just
Sure,
quick?
Yeah, you're fine.
Thanks.
Yes, charge free hugs.
Yes,
Exactly.
all of my rewind because I am struggling today. Queerly.
And Ken, Bobo, free hugs. Everyone here in the chat, yes, Wetro Rewind.
Retro Rewind.
Please let me know if you hear the opening bumper. Nate and Paul, unfortunately, can't hear it, and I just want to confirm that at least you guys should be able to hear it, which I think you can, but let me know. Ashley should do the kid voice. I mean,
Paul has a good kid
yeah,
voice.
that's fair, but I'm going to have Paul just so it's different voices.
Because if I talk like a little
Maybe
kid, no.
Nate should do it.
Oh, yeah. Nate, do you feel like you have a good
No.
kid voice?
I guess.
B5, Nate. B5.
Wait, what's the line? What's the line again?
Here, I'll put in the Facebook here. Well, no, this doesn't work because it's referencing Nate, Paul.
Yeah, but if he changes his voice, you won't. It's kind of like an inside joke.
Yeah, the people
Okay,
that know
all right.
it's extra funny.
All right. I'll put in the Facebook. Hold on.
You mean in the messenger?
What will we want?
Whatever it's called.
What
Well, if you
will we
post it
want?
on Facebook, everyone can see.
Not. Yeah, okay. That's fair, Paul. Oh, my goodness.
Okay. When do you want me to?
So
Start.
we'll just do the whole thing. So Ashley, be ready to go
Retro
again.
rewind.
Exactly. I'm not a boomer. What are you talking about? All right.
Okay, boomer.
I'm a Gen Xer.
No, you're
Thank
not.
you very much.
No, you're not. No.
Are you a boomer terrorist?
Wow. Let's get this going,
No,
guys.
he's down in the gutter with millennial filth like me.
All right. Nate, whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Can we have Nate Henderson back on the podcast if he promises not to be evil?
You know, that's not a bad idea. Who else can we ask not to be evil on the podcast? My wife? Your brother?
I'm right here, Francisco, and if you call me evil again, I will have to resort to violence. So how about we charge ahead with episode 316 of the Retro Rewind podcast?
Retro systems online. Reflux capacitor
I thought we were
fluxing.
doing 5
Scanning
seconds of
room
silence.
space-time
Not
for
doing 5 seconds of silence.
Father of the Bride. 19.
You're gonna have to fix that in post anyway.
Yep. As he always
I
does.
forgot that we were doing the 5 seconds of silence, so I'm glad you actually interrupted me.
Something that you actually forgot instead of just pretended that you forgot, but then remembered that you forgot.
Oh my! Why is all the salt coming out right now?
Because you have an open wound. And I've got a whole bag of salt.
Why don't you give me a nice paper cut, pour lemon juice on it?
I have lemon juice in the fridge.
Oh, big.
I got a whole big old
Yeah.
bottle.
Okay. So, don't forget your final like. Thank you, Ken. But you guys are hearing the music. Yes, we shouldn't insult the boomers. That's a good point, Ken. Yes, you are. Okay,
My
cool.
mama's a boomer.
Yes,
Let's not
chaos.
insult the
I'm
boomers.
warmed by the chaos, Bobo. Really? Oh my goodness. Okay. So you guys heard it. So that's good. Yeah, we'll do 5 seconds of silence. Then I'll just do the intro. We don't have to record anything. Thank you, Nate. That sounded good. I will probably just pick between the two, whichever one I think works the best. But I like both of yours and Paul's. All right. So 5 seconds starting now. All right, thank you.
Psych.
Oh my gosh, Paul. It was like 15 out today. I got to get warmth here where I can't. Jeez, that's so cold, Bobo. All right, so I'm gonna do the little intro again. Here we go.
Retro systems online. Reflux capacitor fluxing. Scanning room space-time for Father of the Bride, 1991. Rewinding in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome, rewinders and new listeners, to the Retro Rewind podcast, where we take a fresh look at movies and games from 15 or more years ago. I'm your captain of the pod, Francisco Ruiz, and I'm joined by your XO and mine, Paul, the not a bride, but once a groom, Powers.com Powers. PaulJPowers.com Powers.
Well, I think some big shot over at the Wiener Company got together with some big shot over at the Bun Company and decided that I should be on this episode. So I'm here.
That sounds about right. Also, for this discussion of the film Father of the Bride, we welcome back aboard Administration Officer of the Pod, Ashley Ruiz. Hey, Ashley.
Hello.
Hello. And in addition, we are glad to have back aboard, it's been a while, our Entertainment Officer, Nate Henderson. Hey, Nate.
How's it going? Thanks so much for having me again.
Of course. So glad to have you back, Nate. And now that you have a quick flyby of who we are, Paul, can you give us a quick overview of the production specs for Father of the Bride, the 1991 version
All right.
with
Father
Steve
of the
Martin,
Bride
not the one where
was
they're playing.
released I'm sorry, Francisco. You want me to tell you the specs? Okay. Father of the Bride was released May 18th, 1950, and the rating was approved. Runs an hour and 32 minutes. It was directed by Vincent Minnelli, grandfather of Billy Minnelli.
Oh,
I was gonna say that's
What?
Liza Minnelli's dad, isn't it? Judy Garland's Minnelli.
Minnelli.
Paul.
Yeah, what?
Liza's dad.
We're not doing the 1950 version. We're doing the 1991 version. Can you give us the specs for that, please?
You want the remake? All right. Let me go back, rewind. All right. Father of the Bride was released June 16th, 2022. It was rated PG-13, runs an hour and 57 minutes. Was directed by Gary Alazaki, sorry. Was written by Matt Lopez and Edward Streeter.
Paul.
What? Andy Garcia and
That's
Gloria
not the right
Estefan?
one.
Dang it. How many Fathers of the Brides are there?
Too many, apparently. The 1991 version. Just dial into 1991. It's not that hard.
It's a book too.
Why didn't you say so?
That could have been brought to my attention yesterday.
Fine. I'll get back, rewind, rewatch that one. Okay. Father of the Bride was released December 20th, 1991.
Thank you.
5 days before Christmas, and runs an hour and 45 minutes. And this one is rated PG. It was directed by Charles Shire and written by Francis Goodrick, Albert Hackett, and Nancy Myers, with lead stars being Steve Martin, Diane Keaton, Kimberly Williams Paisley, Kieran Culkin, George Newbern, Martin Short, D.B. Wong, and a few others you may or may not recognize.
Indeed.
The music was composed by Alan Back to the Future Silvestri.
Dun, dun, dun. Very good.
Are you
Paul.
ready for the box office trivia?
I am ready. Ashley and Nate, are you guys ready?
Yes, indeed.
Awesome. And anyone
All
in
right.
chat, you're welcome to join in as well. Go for it, Paul.
Father of the Bride, the 1991 version, was made for about $20 million and earned almost $90 million in the box office.
Ooh.
Given this fact, how high in the box office do you think it ranks among the movies released theatrically in 1991? And we'll go for the top 50.
Top 50. All right. Ashley, what is your guess for where this ranked in the top 50?
Normally I like to go with my age, but given how much money it made and when it was released within the year of 1991, I don't know. Some part of me wants to be like 24. I want to be like positive about it, considering it did make it quite a bit of money. But given when it was released compared to all the other movies that were released in 1991, let's just go with 24.
24. All
I'm
right.
feeling gracious towards it.
Okay. Nate, how about you? Where do you think it landed?
Well, let's see. It wasn't the same year as Jurassic Park.
No.
So this was a couple years before that. I'm trying to remember what year Home Alone came out, because that had Kieran Culkin in it.
I believe that was that was either 90 or 91. I don't remember.
I was about to say it was a year before.
I think it was a year
Okay,
before.
because I know Home Alone just cleaned up, but yeah, I think this is the year after. So I'm gonna say, I don't remember a lot of great ones from 91. I don't know. I'm gonna say crack the top 10. I'm gonna go 9. Number 9.
Okay. Nice. Let's see. In chat, we have free hugs guesses. Let's see. 11. Okay. Ken guesses 13, and Bobo guesses 15. I'm going to Price is Right / Blackjack Ashley and guess 21 this time. Not quite my age. I'm a little young, a little older than that, but 21. So Paul, where did it actually end up?
Well, according to the-numbers.com, Father of the Bride came in at, Bobo, you should have stuck with your answer 42, because it came in at 15, so you won.
Very nice. Wow. Right on the nose there, Bobo. Good job.
Good job.
Nice.
And most people were close except for me and Ashley. But otherwise...
I wasn't that far off. I was within 9.
I'm not saying you did badly. We just didn't win. That's all.
Eh,
You got to go for the W every time.
too bad you don't.
Corn Bob Bay taught me that. What do you mean? Let's not get distracted. Thank you for those factoids, Paul. And let's see if any of them factor into our memory mind meld or subsequent roundtable discussion, which we will get into once Alice has located our target film. I just realized I don't have the trailer up and ready, so Edna mode me.
Fix it in
Let
post.
me get that ready.
Edna
No,
mode.
it's not going to be that hard to get it. I just
Fix it all in post.
fix it all in post.
Yep.
It's just AI is the whole podcast in post.
Sure.
Okay.
And call me when you get back, darling. I enjoy our visits.
That's great, Paul. Where are you? This would be the trailer. There you are. And this is. Oh yeah, no, I need
Hi.
to come here. Otherwise, you guys
Hi, everyone
can't
in
see it.
chat.
How are you? I'm very happy to be here. Very nice to see you all again. First, I would like to just get to know you. I want to ask you a bunch of questions, and I want to have them answered immediately. Who is your daddy, and what does he do?
I appreciate you
Apparently, we're all
entertaining
mimes
everyone,
here.
Paul. Lesson here is quit to win. Okay, Bobo.
Yeah, he quit the 42, so now he won with the 15.
Oh! I get it now. I wasn't grasping that before.
I know, that's why I had to explain it.
I appreciate you explaining it because you could see me floundering for like what? Bobo. My mom says that my dad is a real chat machine. Wow. Okay. So
Is it GPT or GBT?
what?
Never
GPT.
mind. Yeah, okay. I don't use it, so I don't know.
Okay, 98.
This whole new fandangled internet thing.
What is happening? Okay. I
It's
think
not playing. That's what's happening.
we're good to go now. So, I'm gonna go back.
Very
to-
good.
I want this one. Okay, here we go. So I just said my piece, and I'm gonna play the bumper, and then we'll start the trailer.
Alert. Alert. Target located. Spoilers incoming. Establishing analysis vector.
From Touchstone Pictures, behind every beautiful bride-to-be stands a calm, relaxed father. A father who's just not ready to let his daughter go. Steve Martin, father of the bride, rated PG, starts Friday, December 20th at a theater near you.
Yes, and apparently they didn't believe in 30-second TV spots with Father of the Bride. They always were coupling them with Beauty and the Beast and whatnot. But it doesn't matter because maybe we don't remember that. Or let's actually talk about the things we did remember in our memory mind melt synopsis of Father of the Bride.
Okay.
Martin and Keaton team up for this romantic comedy as Uno Amigo Lucky Day is a shoemaker manager who anxiously awaits the return of his daughter, Annie, from abroad. But instead of just coming back with gifts and stories to share, she brings home a fiancé. And Batman, no, not that Keaton. Annie Hall and her daughter with the same name have extravagant plans for Annie Jr.'s wedding and are planning to spend every last cent George has. After all, his last name is Banks, but he's having none of it as he panics through a whirlwind of stressful situations, including wedding planning, meeting the rich in-laws, and trying to afford all the extravagance. Dollar Tree Paul Rudd tries to play with the big boys now and get one of the Pharaoh's magicians to like him. Then the torturing dentist on a motorcycle tries to coordinate wedding stuff with scene-stealing second amigo Jiminy Glick. Daughter Annie calls off the wedding because her fiancé bought her an appliance. But instead of celebrating the breakup, the jerk finds her fiancé and brings everyone together to save the day. King Tut, Funky Tut, learns to relax a little and enjoy the moments, and experiences the joy and bittersweet milestone of watching his daughter get married and start her new life with her husband. Wow. I mean, some of that was certainly in this movie, but I'd say on the whole that was deceptive. But based on those memories, as flawed as they were, what rating did they lead you to predict before you rewatched this movie? Classic, nostalgic, or tragic? Ashley, I'm going to start with you again. What was your prediction for Father of the Bride?
I remember really liking this movie. I've always been a huge fan of Steve Martin, and I just thought it was just such a feel-good movie. Just back on memories from watching it several times in childhood, my initial rating had to be classic.
Classic, okay. Nate, how about you?
I grew up watching this movie with my family. I want to say like at least once a year
Oh,
for
wow, okay.
a while. Yeah, it was a favorite in ours. So I rated it a classic, and we'll see if that changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul, how about you?
I enjoyed this back in the day, but honestly, it's been a while since I've seen it. But I still have fond memories of it, so I predicted classic. I think I would enjoy it again.
And I'm in the same boat with you, Paul. I hadn't seen it in a while either, but I remember it fondly. So I was thinking, oh yeah, this will probably be a classic. So it'll be, again, interesting to see if those predictions come true. But first, let's get into the things we liked most about Father of the Bride. Alice, start bar.
Best bits.
Awesome. So are the things we liked most about, or not like most, but the things we liked about Father of the Bride? Let's begin with Nate this time. What is something you liked about this film?
Number one on my list was Steve Martin. Just, I mean, I know it seems like kind of broad, but just all of his physical comedy. He's so good at physical comedy, and I'm just reminded when I watch like movies like this where he just has kind of those moments. It's not physical comedy throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
But even when he is supposed to be giving like a reaction, he's putting everything into it.
Yes.
He's putting his eyes and his mouth, and I mean it's just like just the way he can just show how he's feeling with his mannerisms. Or he's capable of just doing a crazy dive off into a pool, with dogs chasing him and stuff. Like,
yes. Release.
He's a very talented comedian, and you get little glimpses of other works he did, like in The Jerk and other stuff like that, when he kind of loses it. So it's that's just something that just always stands out to me in the movie. Even when I was little and I was watching it, I guess I was 12 years old, but I still I liked watching a lot of funny stuff, and I could always appreciate anything that Steve Martin was in. Like, he just always amps up the material quite a bit with his talent.
Awesome. Let's see. I was going to say something about that. Oh, I was going to say just how, commenting on how I think that's, you could say Steve Martin is, his physical comedy is awesome in most of his movies, but I think it shines in this movie more than others. And I don't really know why. Maybe it's the writing, because I reflect on a movie that we've also covered with Steve Martin, The Jerk, and I don't remember liking that one at all, even though he has a lot of physical comedic moments in it. So it's just interesting that I liked him in this as well. Ashley, was Steve Martin one of your likes, or was there something else that made your like list?
Yeah, just like Nate, Steve Martin was my first like too. And I could definitely speak to the comedy. I kept laughing throughout this movie just watching George Banks be ridiculous, from the scene in the pool when he's just trying to fetch the bank notebook, his checkbook, and how he's just in the bathroom and the mirror falls off the wall and he's just like and he's just got this reaction to the pool scene, to where he's in the supermarket and he's talking about how it's Big Bun and Big Hot Dog have gotten together to just screw people, and he's like, George Banks says no, and then the clerk goes, who's George Banks? And he goes, me. And it's just so incredibly funny.
Yes.
Just seeing the range, not just in the comedy throughout the movie, but just how dear and sweet he is with his family. The moments that he has with Nina, his son Maddie, where he's practicing the march down the aisle, left foot, right foot, and giving him pointers there, to playing basketball with his kids. Like, it's just seeing the range of this character. It just makes him so believable, real. And he's just so relatable, because he's just going through it, from the voiceover that starts the whole movie, just kind of recapping the last 6 to 9 months leading from when Annie came home from abroad and just how he was feeling. It's like, oh yeah, the wedding just happened and he's kind of still reeling from that. And really, you just have this very well-played character by this actor that just has soul range. He does the heartfelt stuff incredibly well. He makes you laugh. He makes you just go, aw.
Yeah.
And you can't help but not like him.
Absolutely, yeah.
At least I couldn't.
Well,
You mentioned the hot dog scene.
Yes.
And that just there's other layers. I don't know if you've noticed, but the writing is so good that if you noticed, he takes out 4 buns from the 12-pack, leaving 8, which is what he wants. But he takes 3 packs, and 3 times 8 is 24. So if he just took 2,
Yep.
it would have been fine. But that just goes to show you. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but hopefully it was, just to show you how much he's lost it. Here's the owner, the manager of a shoe company. I'm sure he's okay with basic math.
Yeah,
he would be able to figure that out. But he's just so lost it at that point that. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Was that that scene was that on your like list, Paul, or is it something else?
No, it actually relates to the second thing I was going to say is the writing overall, because I had a chance to watch the 1950s version for the first time.
Cool. Wow.
During this watch, and and several people have told me, oh, it's a classic. It was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, and it was such a good piece at this time. But most people will say, it doesn't really age as well because comedies rarely do. But honestly, I thought this movie improved the other one that was actually based on much better. So the writing in it, I thought was great. They made a lot of improvements since that one, in my opinion.
Nice. So just the writing was an improvement on the previous one. That's your like?
Yeah, the remake. I thought this is an example of where they remake a previous movie and they did it better. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, it's one of those rare exceptions.
Yeah.
Unlike the remake of the next, the 2022 one, which I have not seen. My wife has, and she verified.
Was that the one you saw, Ashley?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I've seen this. I've seen the 91. I've seen the sequel that came out in 95. And then I even watched that Netflix short special that came out in the pandemic, Father of the Bride Part 3-ish. Don't watch it.
Okay.
No, that's the sequel. That's the remake. That's the one with Andy Garcia, right?
No. So Father of the Bride Part 3-ish. They actually got all of the original cast to come back together.
Really?
They did this little mini. It's basically a Zoom call, and it's set in 2020. They got Steve Martin, Diane Keaton, Kimberly Williams Paisley. They got everybody to come back, and then they aged up. They cast adult actors as the children born in the sequel. So it was really cool to see all of those people. They somehow work Robert De Niro in it. It's just a weird scenario, but it all takes place over a Zoom call because they did it in the midst of the pandemic, so it came out in 2020. If you have no time and you don't care how bad it is, go watch it.
Because everyone just has oodles of time to just burn.
They did have Nancy Meyer come back and actually write for it. So it is sweet, and they are coming together for a wedding. I'm not going to whose wedding it was, but if you want to waste some time and you just don't care and you're just like, I like the characters and I love Steve Martin.
Yeah.
Then
don't spoil the mediocre short, Ashley.
It's on YouTube, I can tell you that much.
You know what? I may have to check that out and see how long I last.
It's only 24-ish minutes long, so it's not that bad.
Okay.
It made me really, really appreciate this movie.
Well, so an episode of DuckTales, Paul. That's all you need to. That's all it is.
You can make it through.
Right. And then I get distracted by the videos on the side. Ooh, what's this?
Right.
So something that made Father of the Bride easy for me to get through was actually one of my likes, Martin Short and BD Wong. I thought they just had really good chemistry. I enjoyed seeing. I remember. I seem to recall when the first 1 or 2 times watched this movie, I was annoyed by them, but for whatever reason, I think they aged really well in terms of this movie, and I just really.
You know what? The same thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Yeah. I just enjoyed them. Me and Ashley were like, making the Frank, it's just we were doing that after. And it's just fun.
Damanu. And I have to talk to Honk.
Yeah,
Frank has to talk to Honk. Let me translate.
So is this I was pleasantly surprised to enjoy both of them so much in this. So that was my first like. Let's go back to Nate. What's something else you enjoyed?
Well, I was gonna mention Steve Martin when he freaks out, but we covered that enough.
Okay,
that was a good freak out.
Yes,
but no. One of the things I noticed watching this is because I hadn't watched it for probably at least 20 years. Mm-hmm. So I had never seen it when my daughter was here, when my having a daughter.
Yeah.
Wow. So now I've got a 13-year-old daughter, and
changes.
I just watched it, and like when you're 12, you're just watching it for like the humor and the slapstick and stuff like that, and then when it gets to like all the sentimental stuff, you're like, all right, that's fine. Let's get back to the funny laughter and stuff like that. But oh man, it was really. It was something special watching it now. Aww. Like knowing that my daughter's 9 years from now is going to be Annie's age, and that very well could be my situation.
Don't send her to Rome.
Yeah, no, not send her to Rome. Well, and I'm also just not paying for the wedding. I'm making that perfectly clear.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, there you go.
Just make it, good old courthouse wedding will be just fine. So,
sure.
Yeah, we'll have some stuff I'm sure to say about all of that part of the movie
picnic
later.
In the backyard, maybe.
Yeah, no, but that was really neat. Like I didn't think it would. I didn't think what rewatching the movie would just kind of touch that chord the way it did.
Absolutely,
but just totally different perspective on it now. So
very, very cool. Ashley, was there anything that you had a different perspective about that you liked, or was it just something else that you enjoyed?
Well, I definitely have a new perspective on Frank in this viewing. I remember as a kid, he irritated me, and I don't know what it was about him. I'm like, why is he in this movie? I know he's helping plan the wedding, but he's just so annoying. And I don't know, as an adult, as a woman who's gotten married in the last 3 years,
You got married?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. You look kind of like my husband.
What?
No, but in this go around, just having someone who is just like larger than life, who clearly gets excited about every step of the planning process, just the enthusiasm that Martin Short brings, and the fact that you've got BD Wong balancing out his dynamic duo, and I love the energy that they have. I love the enthusiasm that they have. They just bring something to this movie that's it just gives it something extra, and they're just so goofy, and they're just so fun to watch. And I just love the interactions, especially between Frank and George Banks, just knowing that Steve Martin and Martin Short are besties in real life.
I love that.
That on-screen chemistry that they have, especially when like George Banks is getting frustrated with Frank. It is so funny because they are such good actors, and their on-screen chemistry, whether they're getting along or not getting along, is all believable, and it's just so fun.
Yeah,
Indeed.
They've done many things together. This is up there as some of the best interactions that they've had, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I feel, well, I won't compare movies right now, but yes, I would agree with you.
But
yeah. So what was a better thing for you, Paul, than your first like?
I enjoyed the songs throughout, the little throwback songs. Like My Girl, like when they're playing basketball, they had My Girl, which is usually like talking about a girlfriend, but this time it's actually, you're thinking, oh, that's his daughter, My Girl. They had like Going to the Chapel, and they had all these fun oldies, but that were love and wedding.
All right, just get to it, Paul. I get it. The preamble's over. Just go.
And I thought Alan Silvestri did a good job.
Okay, good.
He did.
Compiling it all together. What? You think I was going to bring in the
that's what
or something? Yeah, it would have made it better.
An Alan Silvestri special right there.
It would have been fantastic. That was the only thing missing from the score.
Oh, my
right?
goodness.
Yeah.
But that's fair, Paul. I have some other things to say about the music or parts of it, but I'm glad you enjoyed it. That's awesome.
It's interesting because having been a wedding DJ
in
the past, all the songs that you mentioned, Paul, like just the classic ones, those are all ones that you would normally play in the reception, like in a reception in the background. It's just kind of neat how they kind of peppered the movie with it throughout, just leading up to the actual wedding.
Absolutely.
Because their wedding was kind of fancier, and I think they had music playing in the background. I can't remember, but
they had like a mini band that was doing like violins and stuff,
kind of like instruments. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. For me, something else I enjoyed was I thought it was really cool how this movie does, and I don't know if this is sort of what you were feeling, Nate, but this does give you. I feel like this movie does a good job of showing the perspective of someone who almost didn't realize their kids growing up until it hits them, and then it's like, what? They did grow up. Oh my gosh! And so I feel like that's, and I think depending on the person, it can cause this sort of semi midlife crisis or this just I don't know what the word for it is, but just this awareness that. It shifts your reality, I guess. So I thought, especially seeing Steve Martin sort of spiral down until he ends up in jail, I thought that was really well captured. And I think that's not everyone certainly will go to that extent, but I think it captured the unsettledness and the shift in your perspective really well. So that is my second like. But let's get to the things we loved the most about Father of the Bride, the things we wanted to marry about this movie. Yeah, we'll go with that. I'm going to start. I know I just got done talking, but you guys pretty much already talked to my classic maker, and that's Steve Martin. I just enjoyed him so much, his expressions, him being a scared dad. He just felt so natural and real. I did not see Steve Martin. I saw George Banks, and so I thought that was just fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. One of his better roles.
Yeah. Let's go to Ashley. What was your classic maker?
My classic maker was George Banks' relationship that he had with each family member.
Oh, okay.
I loved the relationship George had with his daughter Annie, how he was overprotective, but he came to understand, like, hey, she's getting married, she's grown up. I want to just be happy for her and celebrate this new stage of her life. I loved the sweetness that he had with his wife, Nina, how she came to the jail and she called him Banks, and she's like, come on, get back on board. And I loved the dynamic that he had with his kiddo, just the whole practicing the walk and him being silly and the face that he made where am I going to find extra drivers, and then having his son and the kiddo be like parking attendants and just go to town. But I love the dynamic that George had with his family, and it was so believable. Like, you all have family members like that, and it's just like, oh man, I wish I had a dad like George Banks or a family member like George Banks, just because he's so dedicated and he's present and he would listen to everybody, and he got frustrated with how expensive the wedding was going to be, but he had a mental breakdown in a supermarket over hot dog buns.
As you do when your only daughter is getting married, and you're like, okay, it's really hitting me. And then at the end, just seeing him get upset about all these milestones that he's missing. He doesn't get to see her throw the bouquet. He doesn't have the dance. He doesn't get to kiss the bride. And it's just, oh man, it just tugs at your heartstrings in so many different ways, that he cares so much about his little girl. And he just wants to be a part of it, and just seeing all those things that he misses. But then like that phone call at the end, it's just really sweet. He just has such good relationships with all his family, and it just warms my heart. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. What's interesting is that the writer said they purposely wrote that character George Banks to be the father that every woman wants, basically, generally.
Oh, really?
And then push him to the edge.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So I think they succeeded.
Yeah.
For the most part.
They definitely did, because it's like, aw, why isn't my dad like that? And it's just like, but my dad's never gone to a supermarket and taken hot dog buns out of a package, and he hasn't gone to jail for that. And His name obviously.
And by the
isn't
way, you
George
don't go to
Banks.
jail for that. You just pay for the
yeah,
the
exactly.
buns anyway.
So unless he like got in a fight with the store
I was
manager.
about to say it's off screen that leads
yeah,
to that.
yeah.
that your
It must
imagination
have
takes it.
escalated because
Exactly.
yeah, no.
I was gonna say nowadays you could probably do that in a grocery store and nobody employees
cares.
nowadays are told not to mess with the mentally insane people who come in and try to steal and
Well, that's 'cause
destroy and
they're also the employees. Yes.
well yeah exactly. So you could just go in and just start ripping hot dog buns out of bags and you'd probably be fine.
Times
Just walk
have
out.
changed.
Indeed.
Let's see, Nate. What was for this time watching Father of the Bride? What was your classic
Yes.
maker?
I had down my classic maker was Martin Short.
Oh, okay, we
I
flip
think-
flopped.
I think he steals every single scene
He
he's
does.
in.
He does.
Yeah.
He just it's such an injection of just like this manic energy. And because like Steve Martin, it's a little bit more, I mean, it's not like so reserved, but it's definitely more reserved than other roles he's done. Like in the past, like, you know, as far as just being like outrageous, like he's almost kind of this straight man, but gets into funny comic situations and things like that. But so they needed somebody that was just absolutely ridiculous. and it's just like, as soon as Martin Short comes on, just like all eyes just like, and all energy just is on that character. And it's so funny because it's like, you just look at Martin Short and all of his roles, like since then and everything. And the dude's such a pro. Like he brings energy to every single thing. Like my wife and I watched the Only Murders in the Building with him and Steve Martin. And it's so neat seeing them kind of play off because again, Steve Martin kind of plays the straight guy, the straight man, and Martin Short is a little bit more zany and stuff like that. And it's always kind of like when they're acting together, it's kind of like there's that agreement where Steve will graciously, you know, kind of let Martin be the one that's kind of over the top and outland just because it works so well with the chemistry. And you know, because I'm old now, I watch a lot of things with subtitles just because.
Same.
Ditto.
So, but back in the 90s when we were watching it on VHS, my family didn't watch it with subtitles, so you honestly could not understand what he was saying.
It makes it
Like,
funnier.
probably
I was shocked watching it this time with subtitles.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I was gonna say. Like having the subtitles on and being able to see exactly what he's saying, because I even like remember the way he delivered certain lines, but I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember what he was saying. So to actually be able to see some of the funny writing involved instead of just like the murmur, you know, the murmurs and stuff like that. It gave it a whole other like next level because you could appreciate the comedic writing and the way he's like acting through it all is so good. So good. Yeah.
Great one. Well, let's end with Paul. Can you surpass Martin Short?
Yes, I'm gonna bring it up a whole nother level and say the entire cast. I thought everyone in here. I thought it was. There's nobody here that was miscast.
Yeah, those Danish relatives were amazing.
I
so
and
authentic.
Even down to the little kid. I will say, like, all right, I'll surprise Francisco. I'll introduce a little game here.
Oh,
it's like if you could recast one person from that time with another actor, who would you recast? And I would recast the dad-in-law.
Oh,
I
interesting.
would make him Chevy Chase to reunite the three
Oh,
of
that
you.
would have been fun. Yes. So are you asking all of us or just me?
Yeah, all of you. You pick one character who you would recast and who would it be?
Chevy would never do it.
Well, yeah.
he may not, but
he's such a jerk.
That's what I hear.
But
he's
it would
like
be
the
fun.
absolute worst to work with. Anyway, sorry.
For me, I honestly didn't really, and this will come up in my dislikes, so I'm telegraphing some, but I would have switched Diane Keaton with like maybe Michelle Pfeiffer or someone I haven't really thought too much who I'd switch her with, but she's the only contemporary to Diane Keaton that came to mind. So yeah, I just that's who I would switch. Right.
We'll have more to say on that when you say your piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nate or Ashley?
Oh man, it's hard to make substitutions because I just think they were also perfect for the role.
Right.
And I'm trying to think of like what actors were, kind of prominent that I'd even want to switch out. I don't know.
Totally switch Kieran for McCulkey. Jeez.
No. No.
That'd be such a low blow to Kieran. it's like, oh, your brother got another one again.
Can we get the better brother?
Oh my word.
Great. We got dollar store Macaulay.
Oh my gosh.
In fairness to Kieran, I like the actor he's become in adulthood. I feel like
Kieran has won awards. Like he's an exceptional actor now.
Yeah.
Like he's very good.
Yeah.
And he wasn't bad in this at all.
No, not at all.
No.
Yeah.
He's even better in the sequel.
He's a kid. Like kid actors, you expect a level of talent that it's very hard unless you're what's her face?
Dakota Fanning. Yes.
Dakota Fanning.
Yeah.
Who is always just like a 30-year-old in a 10-year-old body or whatever. It's
Time finally
really
caught up with her.
concerning.
That's true.
Yeah, now she matches the actual age that she's always acted. But unless you're her, you're like you expect a little bit, lower caliber of acting talent when you're a kid. And then hopefully when they grow up, they learn to get better or they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Or they just stop.
Yeah.
Or they just fade away.
Mm-hmm.
Ashley, would you substitute Paul Rudd in there over?
No.
That's an even better one. I would.
There you go. That's a good one. Yeah,
I
that's a
wouldn't
good one.
substitute anybody. I feel like the cast was flawless.
Just too gracious.
I know I'm being pretty gracious here, but even if you have a gripe with Diane Keaton, I feel like she played the role incredibly well, and she does have decent chemistry with Steve Martin. It's believable, and I feel like every actor is selling their role. And what's crazy to me is I found out that like Kimberly Williams was even younger than she was playing. She was 20 playing 22, whereas like everybody else was playing like either their age or slightly older than the age of the character. So it was cool that she had like this more mature energy, even though she still was such a baby herself. But
And she knocked it out of the park.
she really did. And I just love the nervous energy of her fiance. Like he's just like, I just felt like everyone was great. No, I can't recast it now that I've seen it. Like it's like lightning in a bottle. It's just so beautiful, and no, they're just dynamic. And no, I'm not recasting anybody.
Alrighty, I guess so. Well, guys, that great bit of a game, Paul. Did you actually give your classic maker though?
Yeah, the cast.
Oh, right, of course, yes.
And yeah, that's why we don't rewrite it, because they were spectacular.
All right, fine, guys. So there are some spectacular things about this movie, but we got to talk about the things that weren't so spectacular. So let's get in. Oh, crap. I don't think we need to edit mode this, Paul, but there's something I forgot, another that I wanted to share. So sorry, guys. But I wanted to let you all know about The Rushmore Show.
Oh.
The Rushmore Show is the place for ranking the ultimate top 4 in sports, video games, nostalgia, movies, and so much more. Each week, Andy and Kirk spark engaging discussions and friendly debates, making The Rushmore Show your compass in the realm of pop culture rankings. Find them at youtube.com/The Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top 4 and nothing more.
Should be, it's all about your top 4 and so much more. But
Why
anyway,
don't you
that's not.
give them that suggestion? Put that in the comment box.
Yeah. And send it off to the internet. But that's great. So what's your top 4 reasons why you dislike Diane Keaton in this movie?
I feel like she's snobby looking.
Wow.
Unpack
So
that more in the dislike section.
No, okay. So I'm accustomed to Paul being like, what does that have to do with Father of the Bride? So I'll just tell you, it doesn't have anything to do with Father of the Bride.
Oh,
but
you snuck it in there.
Yes.
Good plug for the Rushmore Show.
Exactly.
Okay.
But let's see. So
how about some trivia about Father of the Bride?
yeah, actually, I think we should do some trivia about Father of the Bride, Paul. You're like one step ahead here. Did you all realize Kieran Culkin's father, Kit Culkin, insisted that he and his brother Macaulay Culkin act in other movies while Home Alone 2 Lost in New York was being developed? That's why Macaulay Culkin did My Girl, 1991, in between Home Alone and the sequel, while Kieran chose to do a supporting role in Father of the Bride. With that in mind, what job did your parents suggest you do when you were a teen or young adult?
My dad suggested I go mow the lawn.
As an actual profession, he said mow the lawn.
Okay. No, they suggested that I babysit and earn some money. So that was my first job to babysit.
Okay, but like, did they say, hey, you should do this as a career?
But I got paid for it, aka professional.
Okay.
I was one of the rare guy babysitters around.
Okay. How about you, Nate?
Well, the difference between my family, like my siblings and the Culkins, is that if we ever failed, we still got fed. So there was
no big giant pancakes from Uncle Buck if you fail.
No, there was no shackles involved. I don't. I was always encouraged to. Kind of the same thing. Like we had a big yard.
Mm-hmm.
Yard work was always number one at the top of the list. Mm-hmm. And then when I realized that I could actually like babysit and get like away from the yard chores and everything, I was all on board that. I was looking for every opportunity I possibly could before I could actually like go and get a W-2 somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nice. How about you, Ashley?
Never was one to do any of the yard work. It was never really a suggestion. It was like, okay, until I was old enough to legally work, it's like, just do your chores. That's enough. And then when 16 hit, it was like, okay, you're old enough to get a job. And my family drove me around to all the fast food establishments, and I picked up applications from every place in town, and I filled them out. And then there was another trip that was dropping all of them off, and I only ever heard back from one. I worked there for years in high school and college during break. And honestly, when I worked at McDonald's, I never flipped burgers. I was just at the front register and in the.
You're lucky.
Yeah, I only worked. Yeah, I only ever.
Lucky?
Yeah, the only thing I ever cooked was fries, and I had to ask to be trained on grill because I worked.
Oh, that's where you got the grease burns. Yeah.
No, trust me.
Yep.
I had to ask.
Same here.
I had to ask to be trained in grill because I was hired and they trained me on front counter. I learned how to flip fries. Fries was like the biggest handling that I did, but I was usually in the first or second window and at the front counter because it was just something about like being bubbly and smiley, and it was just easier to do, and almost no one
Man.
no one
I
made
was
me
good
get
at math,
greasy.
and they shoved me in the back.
Yeah, I never got
through.
shoved in the back. I just got to just dazzle people with my winning
Good at
personality.
math. Good at math, and they shove you in the. Yeah, you can monitor the temperature of this fryer.
Oh, but I wanted
You
to
know
learn
what
that.
temperature it needs to be. I mean, we could have you handling money and drive-through. That would make the most sense. But no, you need to count
Sorry,
the patties
Paul.
you put down on the grill.
It doesn't matter if you're good at math.
You have a face for the back, not the front. Sorry.
But can I tell you
They
by the
stuck-
go
they
ahead.
stuck me in grill, man. They stuck.
same here.
I didn't stand a chance. Once I was put in grill, I was looking longingly at the people that could actually touch money.
Oh, my goodness. And I'll tell you, like, I wasn't that great at math, but the register told me what change was owed back. So I didn't really have to
So you're
worry
good at
about
counting.
that. So yeah, the machine did it for me. And as long as I was like, hello, welcome to McDonald's, and I had my personality, it's like, it was more about the customer experience than it was about knowing how to flip burgers. And man, I didn't do grill until I was in college, and I had to ask.
Craziness.
It was fun, though.
Awesome.
Well, great trivia, Francisco.
Thanks. And since I'm sure you want to know mine. So
Yes, because my parents really didn't suggest.
Okay, so
anything
my
of
dad was
a
always on me
career.
to be a postman. So
Oh, okay.
so I'm surprised. Apparently, I'm the only one who really had that type of dynamic. But okay.
Yeah.
No, my parents never forced anything on me. It was
Well, they
just
didn't
like
force me, but said you
was
should just be a
never-
postman. You should just be a
Instead
postman.
of go out and mow the lawn, it's go out and walk on other people's lawn, deliver their mail.
yeah, the closest I ever got to that is when I took a career aptitude test, and it was like in middle school, and I had all these different career suggestions, and one was like nuclear engineer, and I'm like, what the heck is that? And my dad goes, that's my job, and I'm like, ugh, I don't want to be like you.
Oh no!
I'm gonna go work at McDonald's. Dang it!
I'm like, I'm gonna work at McDonald's. No, but
And learn how to work the fry machine.
yes,
I want access to the fry drawer.
it's like I can carry a 50-pound pallet of fries. I'm good. I'm buff now.
Oh my word.
No,
Nuclear
Dad.
engineers, eat your heart out.
Yeah.
But you know, like not all of us are built that way. My dad is super smart about that stuff. Like, got a degree in physics, got a degree in engineering. Like, was a nuclear engineer, worked in the with regulating the reactor. Like, super smart guy. But that was not. No, I'm just like, ugh, no.
I'm not
Yeah.
gonna disgrace the family like you, Dad. I'm gonna go sell chicken nuggets.
Yeah, Dad. I
Let
want
me
to work
bag up
minimum
this
wage.
Happy Meal.
I'm gonna go get an honorable job. Thank you very much.
Oh my word.
Not that higher tax bracket stuff.
Yeah, no. I'm gonna make just enough so I don't have to file taxes. And I did it that first year. I didn't even make $600, so I didn't have to file taxes. But he made me.
Okay. Take that, the man.
Because he goes, you're a working girl now. You gotta know how to file your taxes.
Oh my.
Good for him. Good for
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
Yeah.
So is that good trivia, Paul?
Yeah, now that we've all had some trivial fun, let's find out what memories you, the Rad Rewinders, had about Father of the Bride. Hey, Ashley, what is that in Spanish?
Okay.
Padre de Brido.
Brida.
Nailed it.
Yeah,
All right.
that's perfect. That's perfect. Francisco's having a meltdown here. Oh my goodness.
Well, Birdo is Spanish for the bird in Super Mario Brothers 2, so
No.
and she's a girl, right?
No.
I think
Birdo
a
is
wedding in
Birdo
Spanish
is technically a dude. Wedding is boda, but no. Bride is novia, so el padre de la novia. I mean, that's just one way to say that.
Or Padre de la Birdo.
Birdo's
Brido.
a dude.
Dang it, whatever.
Right.
Anyway,
Birdo's a dude.
some of your guys'
Birdo's
memories.
a girl.
Birdo's. We just don't know. And I don't want a TED talk on that, Paul.
Well, I was about to say
I
we
don't
won't
want to
get
know
in,
how you know.
we won't get into the fluidity of the gender of Birdo, okay?
Let's get into the memories you guys had about Father of the
All
Bride. Jeremy Shields starts us off by saying, I only remember the blue tux adieu.
And Kristen Rich Victor left a gift of Frank and Harney saying, every party has a pooper. That's why we invited you.
Which I think is from I imagine from the second one, because I don't remember that in the
It's
first
from
one.
it's from the second one.
Okay.
I watched that right after
It's
we
the
watched Father
closest
of the Bride.
gift online that would allow to be posted there by Facebook.
Gotcha. Kevin Joshua Burnham says, the original is a classic. This Steve Martin remake is actually a nostalgia for me. Nice.
David Gardner says, good movie. No more how this movie and its sequel led to Kimberly Williams, the bride, getting married in real life.
Oh, cool. Patrick Edwards says, I remember some big shot over at the Bun Company got together with some big shot from the Wiener Company and decided to screw over the American public, and George Banks was having none of it. Exactly.
Stephen Forrester remembers that there was a wedding.
Good job, Stephen. Aaron Wallace says, I remember when George removes the superfluous buns at the grocery store. That's right.
Bonnie Smith remembers that he was worried about everything costing so much, but always went along with it.
Indeed. And David Bobo says, I remember liking this movie. That's it. That's the memory. Something, segueing into the dislike portion of the show. Thanks a lot for that, Bobo. Really bringing your A game there. But nonetheless, thank you all for sharing your memories. And yeah, I guess Bobo's comment leads us into the things we didn't like about Father of the Bride. So Alice, bring that up for us.
Worst woes.
All right, let's begin with Ashley. So here's the thing, guys. Me and Ashley didn't talk about our memories or our experience with it. We watched this movie together, but we didn't talk about our experience of it. And given her likes, I was actually shocked to hear what her likes, given my impression of her after the movie. So I'm very curious what her first dislike is. So go for it, Ashley.
I just felt so bad for George so often through this movie because he was given such a hard time about being so negative about the wedding costs. And the speech that Diane Keaton's Nina gives to him when he's in the prison, saying that he's going to regard his daughter's feelings and know that every time he rolls his eyes, it's taking away a piece of her happiness. I'm like, that is such a loaded diatribe you're giving to George. You are spending $250 a head. You have over 500 guests coming to this wedding. He has a right to roll his eyes and be like, do we really need this? And the fact that he is given such a hard time about that, and it's just like, you're taking away our daughter's happiness by every eye roll and blah, 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 blah. So they need to let George take a breath. Yes, he is well off. They live in this affluent neighborhood. San Marino does exist. It is an incredibly wealthy LA suburb. And they have money, but the Mackenzies have way more money. And it just seems so unrealistic to just be like, George, it's one day. It's our baby. No, he is just put through the ringer time and time again. And that speech is just the icing on the cake. And it just makes me so mad because I feel so bad for him. And it's just like, can you imagine if you're the father of the bride and you're just like, do we really have to spend $1,200 on a cake? Why do we need swans? Why do we need this? Because it's just like, but it's only one day and it's only one wedding and people get married every single day in countries all around the world.
Let me offer a counter argument, if I may.
Try me, Paul.
Now, George is a businessman, but he doesn't know the proper way, the calm way to say no to his family. And that he just, at this point, is in jail and has gone off. So in order to ground him back, we need to take away some privileges. And
he's not a 5-year-old.
Well, he could ruin the wedding day. So in order to prevent that, the mother is trying to help secure that.
I understand that she's trying to ground him and bring him back to reality.
Yeah, her intent is fine, but
yeah, I get the intent behind it.
Oh,
like
she was mean.
No, she's patronizing him.
And she wasn't Michelle Pfeiffer.
I don't have a problem with Diane Keaton's delivery. Like, it's believable that a wife is talking to her husband and saying, listen, you're kind of overreacting, but I don't like the way that she's just constantly berating. And like, when they're having all these meetings with Franck, George is just making comments and they're just like, but George. And it's just like, it's kind of like
he agreed with this.
I get it, but he was definitely saying like, no, this is kind of, it kind of has the mentality where they're like, what is it? Mr. Hammond in Dr. Hammond in Jurassic Park? Spare no expense.
Oh yeah.
It just seems like everybody in this movie is like, spare no expense for this wedding.
Yeah.
And he has a right to be upset.
They have to get the price of the wedding more than the house from 17 years ago.
Yeah, that's
I just have an issue with how he's being talked down, and it's like, you're taking away a piece of her happiness. Happiness is fleeting.
Yes, exactly.
Nina.
Yeah.
It's fleeting. It means nothing. Be nice to your husband and don't patronize him.
Granted, you and I would react very differently from each other and very differently from George in this situation. So,
Yes.
but I think that's partly what helps make it a comedy.
Yeah, but I just hate how he's just given such
a
a hard time about it. And it's just like, I hate that scene. I like the scene that precedes it because it's so funny. And then he ends up in jail, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's just like, the wife is here and it's just like,
I do like how that guard is like $250 a head. And he's like, thanks.
It just goes to show you how right she is, maybe.
in a sense, yes, but I just don't like the way she talks to him.
All right.
Let's see. So that's totally
Well,
valid.
I appreciate
Ashley.
that, Ashley, actually, that you don't like that.
I don't.
And I'll talk to that and speak around that in a little bit. But I want to hear from Nate. What's something you didn't like about this film?
That is basically the same, the same thing that Ashley commented.
Oh wow!
It was just the fact that the movie makes George the irrational one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's what I had a hard time with. Like in that whole, don't get me started on the jail. We talked enough about the jail scene as far as that goes. Like even just a little give and take would be just, just be like, hey, I'm sorry that we drove you to madness and you landed in jail. Like, I don't even think there was like even just a tiny bit of a give or an apology.
There wasn't.
It's all our way or the highway.
She said that he became too much for him to handle.
Yeah. And so it's like this lecture, and you're just like, if I was the husband, I would be like, excuse me, like, or have you lost your flipping mind?
Right.
Like, it's and they mentioned that they both had, I guess, careers. I didn't even know what Nina did.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I don't think it even mentioned what she did. I mean, I don't know what she did. Hopefully she's like a lawyer or something, and is like footing half the bill for this thing, because
she owns diamond mines.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, is she working at a Wiener Schnitzel or something? Like, because it's like,
is she good at math? Maybe they'll put her in the back.
Yeah. And they think he's being unreasonable to critique $250 a head. This is a 91 $250,
which is apparently 500 something today. It's ridiculous.
And I think when they did the count for the guest list, like at one point it was like over 500. Yeah, like. I'm a numbers guy. That's $125,000, and that's like at the ground floor before they start having to like add all this extra stuff in as Franck starts going crazy and stuff. It's like, how could you blame this poor man for just trying to make his family happy, but you're going to send him to the poorhouse? You are literally putting him in debt over this.
Exactly.
Like, you were the reason for his madness.
Yeah, you're the reason he went insane. It's perfectly obvious.
Look
in
the mirror. Clear. You're not blameless in this, Diane Keaton.
And they're like, oh, why don't we want the $1,200 cake?
It's like, for perspective,
a cake of this magnitude.
Perspective, Paul?
Yeah. In the 1950 movie, I don't remember off the top of my head, so I have to look
$10 a head. Oh my gosh, that's so much.
$50 a head.
According to this website, I just saw it last night, but I don't remember. But according to this website, it's $1.25 a head that he was flipping out about.
Yeah, because it's the 50s. Yeah. It's the 50s.
Everything cost a nickel. It all adds up.
That's nuts how much
40
it's
years
changed.
of inflation.
So imagine 40 years. Well, we're almost there.
We're there.
We're going to be there very soon.
Yeah.
6 years?
Jeez Louise. Yeah. Something like 6
So
years.
anyway, that really bugged me. It's like there was like, I get that you have to have like certain writing and like, create kind of some comedy and stuff like that. And nobody wants to just have a serious discussion about finances in the middle of the Father of the Bride for 20 minutes.
But it's not like that whole diatribe was funny that Diane Keaton gave. So it's like,
it's crazy too.
I'll tell you what though.
Yeah.
My wife and I also watched it together, and we had a 20-minute conversation where we put it on pause, and I was like, "You want this? You pay for it." End of discussion.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Ashley?
Oh, I was just gonna say it's crazy because originally she was talking about having a small, not big wedding, and then he makes the comment about the steak pit, and like they're just like being utterly dismissive. I know he's saying it as a joke, but my gosh, he's just trying to find some like middle ground because
it just felt like there was no compromise whatsoever.
There wasn't.
It's
they
like,
were steamrolling
as soon as they
him.
shot down. They could have gently shot his first idea down. It's like, all right, we're going to scale it up just a little bit, a little bit more class. Yeah. But then they go to like the fanciest wedding planner they can find. And they're just like, well, this is just the way it has to be.
Welcome to the 90s, George.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. What's funny is I was reading in the trivia that, what's her name? Kimberly Williams Paisley. She actually, her reception ended up being more like the backyard barbecue. Her actual wedding would end up being more like that. So I thought that was cute.
I so wish I had done that.
Sounds sensible.
Yes. Okay, so I'll get to, you guys are like swimming in my more major dislikes. So I'll bring it back down one. The basketball scene where she just got back from Rome. Annie and her dad George are playing basketball. It's sweet, But gosh, that goes on for so long. We don't need to hear all of My Girl. We don't need to hear the whole song. Just
Great
cut it.
montage.
But you
It's
paid
very
for the
sweet.
rights, Francisco. You're not
They got to
gonna
get
have the
every
whole
second's
thing.
worth.
there's money's worth.
Yeah.
I just,
You know?
I don't need to see them play a whole basketball game. I just don't. And so it's just like, could we move on, please? Okay, so that's one of my dislikes. Paul, how
I
about
thought
you?
it was one of the better scenes.
Well,
but
you're
okay.
wrong, but okay.
Well, I'm wrong. You should check out the video live stream of this. It says we're reviewing the Father of the Bride collection.
I know.
And that's wrong.
All right. Good. Oh, yeah. Oh, fine. You want to call me out on stuff like that?
Hey, well, you said I was wrong. I'm just,
Well, I mean,
Well,
technically we are kind of. We've already mentioned the second one, and
Yeah.
Ashley graciously gave a whole rundown of the last
We
short.
might
so-
as well be talking about the collection. Yeah. Thank
all
you,
right,
guys.
fair point.
Let's do all three. I've seen all three in the last
I
72 hours.
I concede.
But go ahead, Paul. What's something you don't like?
All right. Well, in my long list of dislikes for this movie that I actually have, we'll start with one of the basic ones. As someone who lives in Southern California myself, it gets cold at night. And when you plan nobody in their right mind, first of all, in Southern California, 6 months in advance, is going to plan a wedding at night outside in Southern California.
The wedding
It
wasn't
just-
at night. Just the reception.
No,
was at
the
night.
okay, the reception.
Yeah.
You'll
okay.
be like outside, no. Inside, okay, we can have like a major yeah, it's just most people would be talked out of that. It could rain,
Mhm.
it'd be a lot of it's just uncomfortable. So, you know, it the fact that nobody had any issues with that, it took me right out. And then the second basketball scene, that's the one that I had a problem with.
Oh.
It's this touching, endearing moment where it starts to snow. Yet neither one of them are acting like it's cold. It's just like a normal summer night. Nope, they barely have a robe on. They're out in the night, middle of the night, where it's cold enough to snow, and then oh look, it's snowing.
Asbestos
isn't that
is falling.
nice?
Oh, nice.
Nobody's shivering. Nobody's like, "Are you insane? What are you doing out here?"
Well, to be fair, they were getting showered with soap flakes.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What's that?
That's fair, Paul. So those things took
That's a
you
good
out of the
point.
movie.
So yeah, and then they said, okay, going on the coldness,
Mhm.
they put in heaters, but then they took away the heaters to save the ice swans.
Mhm.
Everyone's freezing inside, and they're like, "Oh no, we'd rather have the ice swans in the heater." It's baloney. Nobody's gonna be like that.
Hear that movie?
Yeah.
Big Baloney from PaulGPires.com.
That's right.
Uh,
Stop ruining my movie. That's right. It's mine. I paid to own it on DVD and streaming.
Ashley, what do you wish you hadn't paid for in this movie?
Ugh, there's just so much that this movie says about weddings and just the commercialization of one single day of one person's life. And just because your family has money doesn't mean that you have a right to spend over $100,000 on a wedding on things that mean nothing. You're not going to spend your money flying in the Danish relatives that are related to the groom's side of the family. I don't care what
that's
Danish tradition
ridiculous.
is. You're not doing that. You're spending all of this money, and she doesn't even say thank you to her dad.
Nope.
She doesn't say thank you to her
She
dad.
says, "I love you."
She
Isn't
says,
that
"I
enough?
love you, Dad. I
She
love
says,
you
"I
so
lo-"
much." She says, "I love you so much." But she says, "Thank you. Tell Mom thanks for everything." She doesn't
Yes.
thank her dad. She doesn't thank her dad. She says,
Thank
"Tell
you.
Mom thanks for everything." She doesn't say thank you. He spent $250 a head. Well, who is made of money? That's like over $300,000 in today's money.
Okay.
And honestly, they made it so much about the day, and it was just grandiose and larger than life. And it didn't need to be that way. If you're going to spend $250 a head, reduce your guest count. Most of the people that came to the wedding, they didn't even know who they were. It's not supposed to be a social gathering. Yes, weddings are a very social thing, but you're celebrating the couple. You're not celebrating how much you
Well,
spent on the wedding cake.
whoa,
You're
whoa,
not
whoa.
celebrating how much you spent on the tent in the backyard or the ice sculptures or the swans. It is just marriage is your lifetime commitment. their wedding. It was like a production, and it's disgusting.
Ashley, you don't understand. When it needs to be a big social event, because when you're the godfather, you need to be able to bring in people out of the reception back into your den to talk business.
Yeah,
And
I'm
so
sure
it's a
that
front.
works in The Godfather. Steve Martin is not the
favorite.
Godfather. He is
No, I'm-
George Banks. He owns his own sneaker company. And if
What a
anyone,
front. What a
if
front.
anyone
Who
is,
owns their own secret
and I was
company?
gonna say, if anyone is gonna be splitting the cost of a grandiose wedding, they should have originally gone along with what the Mackenzies originally offered to go halvesies on the wedding and
that's
help
true.
pay for it.
Yeah.
Because if they were going to have pie in the sky, like, oh my gosh, I want it to be $250 a head and it's going to be this beautiful wedding because you only get married once. Not everybody does. But what if you're spending that money on your second wedding, third wedding? It's just, marriage is so much more important.
Yes,
The
the
wedding
marriage,
is
yeah.
one single day. And it just goes to show you they're being so flippant about how they're spending their money. The fact that they spent more money than that house cost. He lives in San Marino. He lives in a wealthy suburb of LA. And if you look at the house that is there today, it is like a multi-million-dollar house. I don't care
Well,
if these are $91.
He bought it when it's just orange grapes.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. It's disgusting how much money they spent on this. The fact that his wife was so dismissive of any cost. Oh, you're taking away her happiness. Boo on her happiness. You gave her away. It was beautiful. That was a beautiful moment.
Rubbish, filth, muck, boo.
Boo indeed. Boo indeed. It is disgusting to see how much money they spent on this wedding. And I'm like, we didn't even spend 1% of
No,
what they
we didn't.
spent. And you know what?
I mean, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful wedding.
And here's
or,
the thing. It's not about the
reception.
dang day. It was a beautiful experience, but the marriage is so much more important. And they don't show like enough of these two together. It's like they met and they've known each other for like 3-ish months. By the time that they get married, oh, we've known each other for less than a year. Oh, it's going to be beautiful. Let's have this grandiose. And she didn't even want to get married originally until she met the guy. And then it's like, oh, he changed my perspective. And I want to have this beautiful, smallish wedding. And then it becomes this 500 plus.
So I think it would totally. Well, before I ask, I think Nate or Paul, did you have something you want to say in response to any of that?
Just
Sorry
going
for my
back
rage.
to the beginning of that.
Okay.
I would like. This is just a comment
Okay.
on thanking the mom and not the dad.
Oh yeah.
I think this is. I'm gonna say a quote. I think it's from My Big Fat Greek Wedding,
Mhm.
where it says the father is the head
Oh, but the mom.
But
But the
the
turns
woman
mother's
is
the
the
neck, and
neck,
she turns the head.
and
Yes,
she
yes.
turns the head. So I don't think Annie would have had this extravagant, nice wedding if the mom didn't go in and manipulate her husband like she did.
Good choice of words.
So she's pulling the strings in certain ways that this all came to fruition. So that's why she's thanking the mom,
It's
because
still-
she knows who's the puppet master.
Still terrible. It sets a terrible example.
It
And
does, but yeah.
And it's just like, really? And if little girls see this, they're like, oh, I want to have a wedding like that. And I feel like
Oh,
it just
They're
sends...
way more extravagant.
Oh, I know.
now.
I know. There's $1 million weddings. There's people that
Right.
spends tens or hundreds of millions of dollars.
Oh,
The
it
wealthy live in a world that we can never just be part of. But it's just, oh my gosh. For people that are doing well off with their own businesses, it's like, are you kidding
But
me?
remember, this is a movie about the rich who are envious of the richer.
that makes it better.
Yeah, and the only reason why the Mackenzies can just get them a car and it be like nothing is because, oh, that car was probably half the price of this wedding.
Yeah.
And it's like, they should have just agreed, like, oh, yeah, we probably should go halvesies on this because somehow this vision is so inspired. And when the vision got up-leveled, so did the wedding. Yeah. So unrealistic. And it makes me want to punch Diane Keaton's character in the face because she was just adding to it.
And she's not Michelle Pfeiffer.
No,
Oh my
it's
goodness.
just... Sorry, it just
Wow.
watching this film and just see it go from, oh, I want it to be somewhere between big and small. I want it to be in the backyard and I just want it to be this beautiful thing, to it just being this larger than life thing. And I don't know. As someone Francisco and I did not spend a lot of money on our wedding. It was very intimate and cost effective, and just seeing all this money be spent almost 40
Really
years
bothered
ago, it really,
yeah, you
really
guys-
bothers me because it's
You
about
guys
the
did it
marriage.
at McDonald's. So
Yeah, clearly. And they threw it,
Like-
and the ice cream machine conveniently was not broken that day.
Yeah,
But,
well, that's you guys
Hey,
had to pay extra.
we had Domino's. Thank you very
We
much.
Yes.
we did. No one's gonna be editing Diane Keaton's Wikipedia page. If anyone's
by the
doing
way-
it, it's going to be me.
By the way, I will say, lest anyone get the wrong impression, I actually don't have a thing for Michelle Pfeiffer. I just prefer her to Diane Keaton.
Right.
Right, Francisco. Right. Is that why you reviewed Batman Returns 5 times on the podcast?
It was 6 times, but
Oh, sorry.
We only released it once, though. One version.
That is hilarious. That
What?
thing
You
that
just kept
Bobo
telling
just-
Paul it didn't record. You're just like, I'm sorry. I don't.
let's see. Bobo says Kian is known for her Oscar-nominated performances in classic roles, but she is best known for not being Michelle Pfeiffer. Yes, I guess so. I want to know what Nate feels needed. What about this movie Nate felt needed to be punched in the gut? So Nate, what's something you don't like?
Punched
Wow.
in the guts. I thought so. We're sharing our second one. Is that right, or is that
Yeah.
where we're at? Okay,
We're on
gotcha.
number 2 of our top
We're on-
3. Yeah.
We're on number 2, the top 3. I thought I could not stand the breakup scene, or just the everything involved with that. I thought just the reasoning behind it. It's like, yeah, I know they were trying to kind of play off that like they were a young couple and they get offended by stupid little things and maybe even break up and stuff like that. I thought the whole thing, I don't know, I thought that they could have done a better job with the writing on that.
Like it felt lazy.
Especially you've got people like Steve Martin and Martin Short, and Diane Keaton's a great actress. You could have had a comedy of errors. Like I would have gladly had them tack on 5 or 10 minutes to the movie if they could have written like a good comedy of errors where it's just kind of like misunderstandings happening very quickly, and then it can wrap up really fast. I just think the whole reason of them breaking up was just, I don't know. It didn't feel right. It's just like
Didn't really blend with this movie.
And it's like it just, I don't know. It just really annoyed me for some reason, I guess.
Yeah.
Some people might, some people, like I saw where they were trying to go with the humor in it, just as like something so trivial, and so now George is like freaking out because it's like, oh man, how do I handle this? But I don't know. The whole thing I thought was just a little forced, a little shoehorned in there.
I'm right there with you, though. I think for slightly different reasons. That was my next dislike, is her getting so upset over a blender. And I guess I think, and this sort of touches on something you were sort of alluding to, Ashley, with that we don't see a lot of her and not Paul Rudd's romance in this movie. And so I think we don't really have an investment in that. We're much more invested in George as a dad. And that's fine. I think that'd be a different type of movie if it was about Annie and I can't think of his name. Ryan, yes.
Ryan Mackenzie. Or you can go with the actor's name, George Newbern.
Sure. The not Paul Rudd. I think I'll remember that easily.
Right.
Not Paul Rudd works. Not Paul Rudd works.
The boyfriend on
Adventures in Babysitting. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I think I made that not Paul Rudd joke there as well in that episode. Anyway, because we don't have that investment, I feel like this feels forced or contrived, sort of like what you were, I think, getting at, Nate, where it's just like, I mean, they sort of said it with like her saying she didn't want to get married, and that I guess is a signal that she has some feminist ideology that sort of has her toned in like, oh, I don't need a man or anything like that. And and then this is, I think, borrowing from that, but that sort of throws away this whole like they're have this romance and they fell in love, and so I felt like it's unearned. This disagreement or this misunderstanding is unearned. I think, like you were saying, Nate, having something more where all the major people misunderstand each other, and that leads to maybe the wedding being maybe on the wrong day or something, and then they realize, oh crap, we have to scramble and get this set right. I think that would have brought everyone together more and just been more satisfying as a foil for the wedding maybe not happening. But Paul, let's give us one more of your dislikes before we get to tragic makers.
Sorry, I was looking up George Newbern because the actor was also on Friends, just like Paul Rudd was,
Yeah.
but they
He
weren't
was?
on at the same. Yeah, he played in a few episodes.
He was the guy that came back with a big beard and scared Rachel and Monica in the basement.
Yep.
But then he
Yes.
shaved, and he was like, okay. And then Rachel had a thing for him. I can't believe I'm remembering all this.
It wasn't
Jeez,
Phoebe's other boyfriend, which would have been funny.
Yeah.
That would have been, yes.
Missed opportunity.
Like Nate, my second dislike also has to do with the writing. And and the fact that it has to do with the little boy and the character. And I thought, like I said, Kieran Culkin did a great job acting, but it's more the writing.
Oh, okay.
And the fact that they wrote him knowing way too much for a little boy.
Yeah, I felt that way too.
For example, when he says, I don't think you want the word pit in a wedding invitation. How would a boy that young know what people want
Yeah, and
or
a boy
not
that
want in a wedding
a boy that young
invitation?
would be laughing at something like that, if anything.
Right.
Not
And-
criticizing it.
And he rolls his eyes when his dad suggests, like, oh, the backyard barbecue kind of thing. Like, oh, that's any kid that age would love a barbecue.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the
Totally.
writing of the kid, I just thought was over the top, wrong direction. Even I know they tried to write it for laughs, and it's a comedy, but try another approach.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, guys. Well, let's get to our tragic makers. The things we hate most about Father of the Bride. Let's cancel this wedding because it's so bad. Let's start with Ashley.
Oh man, I'm not gonna rant like I did with this last one. I guess I just got so super excited about something that made me furious. But my tragic maker actually wasn't the cost of the wedding and how it was commercialized and it was grandiose and over the top. My problem were all the antics that happened at the wedding with George not being able to have a dance with his daughter. He wasn't able to kiss the bride. He didn't get any food. He had to deal with all the parking issues. And I mean, yeah, Annie notices like he's not around, but no one's seeking him out. And he's just kind of left to his own devices like, oh, where's George? Oh, I haven't seen him. But then no one does anything about it and it doesn't just seem to matter. And then the fact that he doesn't get a chance to say goodbye to his daughter. He gets a phone call and it's just so disappointing.
Yeah.
And the fact, like, again, thank mom for everything. She doesn't thank him. It just seems like she doesn't really care that much. For a girl that has such a close relationship with her dad, it just feels so incredibly one-sided in those last 10 minutes. And I struggle to just be like, I just want to shake you. Be grateful. Find your dad. Hug him. Say thank you so much.
Yeah.
I know this was really hard, but I appreciate everything that you have done. And she just comes across as just a little ungrateful. And it's just like, oh, I just had this beautiful wedding where we spent $250 a head. You spent between $125,000 and $150,000 on this wedding, this one day in my life that we'll never see again, and we'll look back in pictures. You weren't around for my bouquet costs. You weren't around. We didn't have a dance. You didn't hug me, kiss me. You didn't even get to eat on my wedding. You spent all this money, all this time, and you were the one having to do all these things behind the scenes when nobody else would even lift a finger.
Yeah.
He had to deal with the cops. He had to move the cars. He had to enlist the help of two young boys to move the cars and then end up in a parking situation that's even worse. But the fact that all of this is going on, and yeah, Annie's like, where's dad? But then no one is looking for him. And it's the climax, it just makes me really disappointed in how this movie ends. And yes, she calls and she says, I love you so much. And it's this sweet, touchy moment. But it could have been so much more meaningful. It's such a letdown. It could have been so much more meaningful if he actually were to hug her and like wish her off as she goes away on her honeymoon. But the last 10 minutes, they're just so disappointing for a movie that is so good. The last 10 minutes just leave me with a bad feeling in my mouth. And even though she does call and they connect a little bit, she just, to me, comes across as so ungrateful to her dad for everything that he's done. He gave her away in the ceremony, but then she literally didn't see him for the rest of the night. And outside of asking, where's dad? The fact that no one went to look for George, and He didn't get the dance. He didn't get to do anything. And then she just calls him from the airport because, they can't miss their flight. It's like she couldn't be bothered. No one could be bothered to find the father of the bride and have that beautiful moment.
Yeah. So I think that's completely valid, and I feel the same way about it. Actually, my only comment I would say is, and I think we talked about this a little bit afterwards, where I think I feel like this is the one area where this movie is trying to be more than a comedy. It's trying to be, I don't know, have a commentary on something, where I think it's trying to get across the point of if you're too busy with other things, you're going to miss your kids growing up. And it's like, if you get too busy, it'll be too late. And so because he's too busy doing all these other things, he's too late to see his daughter off.
All right, I gotta go, but I have other things to do besides podcast here. Talk to you guys later.
So I want to say that's the commentary it's supposed to say. I think you really have to dig for that, and I feel like it with a comedy, I almost want, I guess for me, and I assume you as well, and I'd be curious, Paul and Nate, how you feel. I want my comedies to end on a nice note. Like, for instance, I like Liar Liar. Jim Carrey and his ex are seemingly getting back together. I like in, let's see, where are some other comedies we've done recently? I like in Tommy Boy. They save the company. If those things weren't happening in those movies, I wouldn't like them as much. So anyway, go. What were you gonna say, Paul?
I was about saying Three Amigos. They save the town.
Yeah, they save the town, exactly. So anyway, that's.
And in The Father of Bride, they get married and pay $250 a head. So it's a win-win.
I will say, and I'll just go to my tragic maker because we've already talked. I feel like I'm glad you guys are already. We're all on sort of the same page about this. My tragic maker was the perpetuated notion that the wedding day is more important than the marriage because of all this investment of time and planning and thought and money. And I feel like it de-emphasizes the importance of having a marriage and being set up for a lifelong commitment. So I was annoyed.
They cut those parts out of the film. You know why? Because they're slow and boring.
That's fine, but then don't expect this wedding to cost $250 a head. So anyway, that was my tragic maker. Let's get to Nate's tragic.
I'm sorry. If you talk about marriage instead of the wedding, it brings the cost of the wedding down?
No. I feel like they could have had other things other than a hugely extravagant, expensive wedding to make it.
That's a different movie.
Well, fine. Make a different movie. Make a movie for Francisco.
Oh, okay.
I'm being selfish now.
Or half that amount, because in the original it was $1.25. Make it $125. It doesn't need to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
It can be just a modest amount. Well, that's still more than you would be paying anyway, but yeah, it doesn't have to be that. You're just making it about a day in the life. And yes, it's a special occasion, it's a celebration, but there was almost no talk about marriage outside of how she didn't think that she was originally ever going to get married, but then she met this man and it changed her mind and she wanted to be married to him, but there really wasn't a talk of what it meant to be married.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to hear what it meant to Nate to hate on this movie. What's your tragic maker, Nate?
My tragic maker is pretty much in line with Ashley's.
Oh, okay.
As far as I just put down the wedding reception, just in general.
Yeah. The wedding at the church, I think, was fine, but yeah, the reception.
No, I didn't. Well, yeah, I didn't have a problem with the wedding.
Yeah,
it was like the reception to me felt like just kind of lazy writing. Like it felt like the writers were just kind of looking for an out, and it's just like, somebody finally suggested, wouldn't it be funny if he was just shut out of everything?
Yeah.
And it was just like, it's like, what? Like, it's like, as Ashley, I think, was saying earlier, it's like, if I'm the father and I'm spending $250 a head, like you darn well better
on your shoulders.
I'm gonna have the groomsmen bring me in on a golden throne while Eye of the Tiger plays. Like it's just like I'm gonna have people know why they're eating lobster. Like,
Yeah.
it's just kind of one of those things. It's like, no, but it's not just that, but it seems lazy in a sense that, again, fine, tack on 5, maybe 10 minutes, have some funny things happen during the reception. He can be a part of all of it.
Yes. Instead of missing out. Yeah.
But I mean, if you write it well enough, you can even have the daughter just kind of, despite him making a goof of himself, just having nothing but admiration and for him or something, just because she realizes how much he has, I don't know, that he's sacrificed to make this all happen for her.
Yeah.
But instead, he just gets like shut out of everything because the staff's like, sorry, can't go through this door.
I'd be like, through
dude,
the front door.
Forget you.
Right.
I could have your boss fire you right now. Like, let me through this door. Like, I don't know. The whole thing, he was just getting stepped on like the whole time. And it's like, it was almost just kind of like, here's a chance where you could have had him not be stepped on for the last 10 or whatever 15 minutes of the movie, because he kind of gets pushed around like through most of the movie, and then and now he really gets pushed around like at the end, like at his own daughter's reception. And like Ashley said, like the daughter would seek him out, the mom would seek him out. Like, he probably invited people from his work who like adore him because he's the boss. You're telling me you don't have any friends that would be like, George, go inside, I don't want you to miss this. We'll get a group of guys together to park repark these cars and stuff like that.
He's not paying $250 a head on top of what he's already paying them to work for him. His employees aren't at the wedding.
Well, maybe they should be.
We don't know, but that's the other thing too. Talk about making a character isolated. It's like, you telling me he didn't have one good friend, like one good guy friend there.
Oh, yeah, he did. Frank.
It's like the mom and dads, they always want to invite some of their friends so they can see their kids get married and everything like that. You're telling me there wasn't one single person that was like, George, you stay for the toast, and we'll get some people to like move these cars. Anyway, just the whole thing was so just far-fetched. I guess.
No, that's a great way of putting it.
So I don't know. It's almost like the writers got. It's almost like the writers finished writing up through the wedding, and then like a night before they like started shooting, they're just like, oh crap, guys, we didn't write the reception part. It's like,
morning of, okay, this happens. Yeah, that sounds
like,
great.
all right, we're just gonna bunker ourselves in a hotel room and everybody bring all the drugs you can, and we're just gonna write this thing out. It's just like, I don't know. The whole thing was just so weird.
Yeah. So, Paul, you said you saw the 1950s version. Does the same thing?
What all you're complaining about all happens in the original.
Really? He misses out on everything.
Yeah, and he gets a call from the airport from
the
daughter.
Interesting.
Wow.
Such a
Okay.
So you think they just were trying to really hold true to that part of the story then?
A lot of the story is held true. There's
or they were just super lazy and just took the original script and said, hey, you play this person now.
Well, see, I can understand the 50s mentality. I really can. Because the 50s mentality, the guy goes to work, he comes home, honey, what's for dinner? And gives the children a pat on the head who, had a good school day, and then goes into the den to smoke his pipe or something.
Remember,
like
they're
that.
Rich, so the maid was actually, they had to cook cook had it
so
prepared.
So even less opportunity to interact with your children, like, 'cause
Right,
you're not making dinner or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it's like I could see that with the 50s mentality. This is like almost 40 years later, like where families at this point have changed, they've evolved, they've got it's like I don't know, it's just kind of a missed opportunity.
They had an opportunity to correct the lazy writing, and they didn't.
Yes, exactly.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So, Paul, let's end with you. What do you wish you could correct or be corrected about this film?
I'm going to go in a whole different direction.
Ooh, okay, interesting.
And that is, I know comedy is subjective. And so what may be funny to some is not funny to others.
Sure.
But for me, I felt not a lot, but there were many moments that I felt were over the top.
Sure.
So much so that it made the film worse for it.
Really? Okay.
For example, the kids driving cars, and they can't even reach the pedals.
Yeah.
And then they're going to magically not dent, these tight spaces.
Movie
I'm
magic.
telling you, Paul, that was overnight riding with a mountain of drugs.
Clearly.
That is not an original, and that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
But a lot of the humor is just over the top, and
Yeah.
we've talked a lot about a lot of these over the tops, and I think honestly it makes the film not as good. If they could have toned it down, I think it could have lasted longer.
Can I have a quick Francisco's fan fiction is fabulous?
It's your podcast.
I think it would have been funny. I know this isn't John Hughes, but if the two guys from Ferris Bueller's Day Off that take the cars were taking cars also.
That's who you would replace in your
Yes.
recast.
There's no problem with cars because all the cars are gone.
Right.
So okay, back to
you
what you're
take
saying.
one of the guys from Super Mario Brothers movie, and the guy from Short Circuit, and make them park cars. Okay.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, so continue though with what you were saying, please, Paul.
Wait, the guy from Short Circuit, he's not in.
He's not in Ferris Bueller. The other guy is, yes, but
yeah. All right, sorry. No, that's my tragic maker. I just thought it was over the top. I know this is not a jokey kind of comedy. It's more situational, and I thought a lot of the situations were just over the top.
Gotcha. All right. Well, now that we've entered all our trajectories into the firing computer, Alice, do you have a firing solution for us?
Firing solution complete. Rating salvo armed and ready to fire on your mark.
Alrighty. Do we rate Father of the Bride a classic? We'd recommend anyone go see this, whether or not they've seen it before. A nostalgic, it's worth rewatching if you enjoyed it as a kid, young adult. Definitely watch it again. You won't miss out. It'll still give you those fun, warm feelings again. Or do we rate it? But if you've never seen it before, don't take your time to watch it. Or do we rate it a tragic? We don't recommend anyone go see this. If you've never seen it before, keep it that way. And if you have seen it before, don't sully any good memories you have of it with a rewatch. So let's begin with our guests. Ashley, you had predicted a classic. Where did this end up for you?
Well, unfortunately, with all of the dislikes that I had with this movie, it got downgraded.
Mm-hmm.
It got knocked off the classic pedestal, and it's merely nostalgic.
Nostalgic.
Even though there are faults with it, Steve Martin's performance, Martin Short's performance, just the relationships between the family, even though there's all these unrealistic expectations of what a wedding and marriage should be, and the ending, quite frankly, sucks, and I just feel so bad for George. It's still wholesome. It still holds up, even though maybe don't look at how much they're spending per head, even though they're going to tell you like every 5 minutes. But it is definitely nostalgic. If you grew up with it, you're probably still going to like it to this day. You just might have rants about them spending $250 a head and ungrateful brides. But beyond that, nostalgic.
All right.
Hey, that's nothing compared to 50 or 100 years from now.
Yeah.
I guess not.
Luckily, I'll be dead.
I won't be. I'm going to live to ripe old age of 500.
You'll be a head in the jar.
Yeah, you will.
Okay.
Nate, let's go to you next. You had predicted classic. Where did it end up for you?
I was debating on whether or not it would downgrade it on the watch. I'm going to keep mine as classic. Okay. I think because it was just like I said, my family and I watched it all the time. It was something the family could all like sit down and watch and appreciate different things. And I don't think despite some of the ridiculousness and the writing, it wasn't enough to bring it down to nostalgic. I think everybody should give it a watch, especially if somebody has, a daughter, or if you're a guy and you've got a daughter. I think it's a really great message.
Yeah,
so
awesome. All right. So two nostalgic and a classic so far. Paul, you had predicted classic. Where did it end up for you?
I'm more curious what our rewinders had to say. Did they say anything?
We didn't have any vote. I had talked to some of them. Most of them were trying to stick to the rules of. You're talking about our reflex capacitors, who are also rewinders, but the people that support the show, they get to vote on these movies as well.
The big bucks, who's actually
Yes.
paying for the wedding. Yes.
$250 a vote. What?
They're invested.
I knew I shouldn't have charged for people to vote for that. No, but they said they hadn't watched it in a while, and they wanted to honor the rules of only seeing the last. If you've seen it in the
thank
last couple of
you,
years,
reflux capacitors.
yes. So we don't. There is a vote on there. That's just me testing that it was working because there weren't any votes. I'm like, oh, maybe it's broken. So, and I couldn't undo it. So, so no votes from our reflux capacitors. So, Paul, what was your? Again, you predicted classic. Where did it end up for you?
Yeah. So I had a whole long list of dislikes and hardly any likes when I was filling this out, but honestly, even with it over the top, I'd still rate it a classic, barely.
Really?
I think you
Okay,
should.
wow.
I'd recommend anyone, if you haven't seen it, go out and see it. It's not like this is a must. It's just like put it on your list. Eventually get to it. It's I think, you know what? It's a charming film that I think still holds up for the most part. So
Okay.
I recommend
Awesome.
it. And I know I honestly I watched 1950 and a lot of people like it. I would actually rate that a tragic to our
wow.
definition.
Really?
I wouldn't sully your memories with the rewatch. I think this movie improves upon that one much better.
Oh, okay,
So
cool.
I would stick to this one.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Then that leaves me, and I predicted a classic. And you know what, guys? There are just so many like sweet things in this movie, but so many of the good memories I have of this were sullied, and I'm like, why did I waste my time with this movie? So
Martin
tragic for Father of the Bride. Yeah.
Martin Short. That's why you
Martin.
Yeah, but that's not
Because
Wait a minute.
Frank is quite frankly the
That's-
best thing about this movie.
that's
You
great.
you downgraded twice?
Yes, because
Can you do that?
because
Husband.
I had done nostalgic, but then I thought about more and like our definition of like don't sully any good memories you have with the rewatch, and that's exactly what happened. Like I was thinking, oh, this is gonna be a fun movie. I'm gonna enjoy this. It may not be the best, but then I like watched it. I'm like, yeah, there's funny parts, but overall, I'm like, this is not the movie I remembered. I thought it was. I just remembered it so much better than it was. So given our definition, I feel like I have to rate it a tragic.
Can I ask a question, husband? Has being a
just
father, and especially a father of a daughter, shifted how you view this movie, especially if you think about the future and what that potentially holds? Do you project yourself onto George Banks in any way? Like, what about like how it sullies your memory? Like, what about that time in your life that makes you think, oh,
Do you
it,
foresee yourself paying $200?
Yeah, are you gonna pay $200?
Is that why you hate this movie?
I'm never gonna let you do that, and I will be
I
like,
would not do that. No, and I don't think that's actually plays a piece in it. For whatever reason, it's not affecting me in the same way. I love how it is affecting you, Nate. It's for me. It's not. It didn't for whatever reason hit that same chord for me. So I don't think being a father of a daughter is impactful. It's really the elements of the wedding's the most important thing. A blender upset her was what's upset her. This whole like talking down to George in jail. I feel like, I guess George isn't. I don't know. I think I wanted more of a heroic element from George than we got. Like I feel like I would have liked it if he had stood up for himself more than he did. I feel like he just got walked over too much. And I didn't really, that made me feel like kind of sad for him, but didn't make me want to root for him like I wanted to. So that, I think that's ultimately the crux of it for me.
Yeah, I think the good old theory of Francisco is still holding up.
What good old theory? What are you talking about?
Ashley, I don't know if you're aware of this because it has been a while since I've been on the podcast, but my buddy Cowan and I, we were charting the things that Francisco really doesn't like with movies, and it just so happens that whenever children disrespect anybody in authority, an authority figure, guaranteed Francisco will just have this bile forming
Yes.
in his gut.
I
as a
didn't
result.
think
And
about that.
That explains the 2-level
It's
downgrade, my
subconscious,
friend.
you
Yeah.
know.
That explains the 2-level
It-
downgrade.
it
If you have
does.
disrespectful kids in any movie, Francisco will want it to burn. Like he will like, yeah.
It's true.
It's
'cause-
without fail. It's a tried and true theory that I will write my thesis on eventually someday. But until that day happens, you take that to the bank.
You can totally take that
Take
to
it
the
to the
bank.
George Banks.
Yes, take it to the George
Right.
Banks because his last name is Banks because he's made of money. But it's true. It's true because that's kind of what sullied me on this movie because I originally had such fond memories of it.
Yeah.
And just seeing like, okay, my father is essentially made of money and since he's offered to pay for it, let me just see how far I can go. And he didn't have much of a backbone. And then the spiel that Nina Banks gives about how every eye roll is taking away your daughter's happiness. I'm like, it is one day. How much happiness is she truly losing by not having swans
Yeah.
or not having ice sculptures? And it's just
Exactly.
like, George, you got to draw the line somewhere, and he never did.
Yeah.
So it kind of is his just desserts because it just came back
Yeah.
around on him because he
And-
wasn't willing to stand his ground. But at the same time, it's just like, I still feel bad for him because
Yeah,
he's so
yeah,
likable.
exactly,
And,
yes.
and that's why I couldn't call it tragic because Steve Martin's character is just so darn likable and I want to root for him even though he is a spineless.
Well, you just
Doormat.
you just need a heart in your heart more. There,
Sorry,
Ashley,
I can't be you.
But Bobo, how dare you? Then he was like, "Oh, this is a movie. I must hate it." This is not me at all.
He doesn't hate every movie. It's
Exactly.
just if it doesn't go the way that he wants it to, he's going to hate it.
Oh, and it's a Disney film, so that also checks that box.
That's
as well.
true.
Yes,
Good
yes.
point.
It's a Disney film with disrespecting authority.
Well, he doesn't like it
Can't
in
have
his
it.
personal life either. Disobedience is probably
Yeah.
one of his biggest pet peeves.
Indeed.
And I'm right there with him. And
It's
she's
a tried and true, I'm telling you.
And for me, it's ingratitude and the fact that Annie is just like, tell Mom thanks for everything, but she doesn't tell her own father because he was the one that essentially paid for it. Yes, Nina has her own business, but you see, he is the one that is doing all these things, and it's just like, ugh, George, why?
But regardless, the Retro Rewind podcast rates with 2 classics, a nostalgic and a tragic, Father of the Bride, a disputed, highly disputed, classic film. We'd recommend anyone go see it, whether or not you've seen it before. But now it's time to get back to our own time, good old 20XX.
20XX.
Calm sat online, awaiting incoming transmissions.
Feels good to be back, but we wouldn't have been able to travel back to 1991 to begin with if it weren't for our amazing reflux capacitors, namely Deborah Powers, Geek Devotions, Drew of the Cellcast, Ashley Ruiz. Oh, you're right here. Woohoo! Kennethan, Fabulous Lomax, That's Our Bobo, D. Tungsten, Mr. Lost, Daryl Hafner, Cool Deluxe, Dustin He's a Big Deal Warford, Flux, Redeemed Otaku, in addition to 2 other awesome patrons as well. Thank you all so much for keeping the gigawatts coming. And if you want to help us keep flying and get bonus content for your generosity, head over to Firejoy Studios, subscribe, and you can subscribe for the $5 a month as a way to support the show.
Where's Firejoy Studios? You said head over to Firejoy Studios.
Oh, good
Where's
point,
that?
Paul. That's at firejoystudios.com.
Oh, cool.
Home of the Retro Round podcast
Yes.
and Junkyard Juggernauts.
Cool.
This stream is sponsored by PaulJPowers.com.
Hey, Francisco.
Yeah.
Are there any ways to support the show financially? Oh, wait, we just talked about that financially.
We did, yes.
If you don't want to spend $250 a head listening to this podcast, are there ways to support the show without breaking the bank, the George Bank?
Actually, yeah, Paul, there are. So you probably enjoyed this episode if you made it this far. Though maybe you turned it off as soon as you heard me rate it tragic. You're like, nope, done with this. But if you are still listening and you are having fun with us, and you aren't driving, tap the share icon on in your podcast player for this episode and send it to a friend saying, I know you like Father of the Bride, or I know you like Steve Martin, so I thought you might like this podcast about this movie.
Cool. And I'll bet they'll thank you for it.
They should.
And speaking of thanking people, and not just your mom, but also the father, we want to give a big wedding size hug A big wedding.
We'll go with that.
Size. Yeah, that's what I.
A big fat Greek wedding size hug.
There we go. To Ashley Ruiz and Nate Henderson for supporting us with their thoughts about Father of the Bride, the 1991 version. So, since we like to go alphabetical order, we'll start with Ashley. Where can people find you online if you want to be found? Is there anything cool that they should know about?
Well, you can find me on the platform formerly known as Twitter at AshleyRuiz1186. Catch me tweet about all things faith and fandom.
Cool. And Nate Henderson, thank you so much for coming out here. Where can people find you online if you want to be found? And are you still podcasting?
No.
Okay.
Not regularly. Let's just say that. So right now I can't be found, and I love it.
Excellent.
But thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to be here.
Nice.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Ashley. Thank you so much, Nate. It's awesome getting to podcast with you guys. And thank you to my awesome, got to be a best man at his way and got to be a best man at mine, friend Paul. And
That's
all
right.
your rewinders, new and old, for another fun voyage.
Thank you indeed. You can find me, pauljpowers.com. That's me. You can find me, pauljpowers.com. I'm at pauljpowers.com. I have all my social media links.
.com. Okay, that makes sense.
pauljpowers.com.
And you can find me on our Discord for show announcements or just to say hi. Join us there or find all our socials at firejoystudios.com/social or /Discord.
This podcast is a proud member of Culture Box, a curated collection of podcasts, videos, and articles that will provide you a balanced meal of content. You will find culture celebrated for its past and future, satirized for its extremes, explored in study, and created anew in story. Point your web browser to culturebox.media.
And as the voiceover of Steve Martin, well, almost Steve Martin, just said, we are now part of the Culture Box Media Network. Find all the shows unpacking truth through story, comedy, and geekery at culturebox.media.
Thank you, EXO, and thank you for listening. We pray you are more joyful today than when you first hit play. But like a Pokemon, we gotta catch you all for Chariots of Fire, our next adventure on the Retro Rewind podcast.
Retro Rewind mission complete. Proceed to base to await next mission.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Dad, I met a man in Rome, and he's wonderful and brilliant, and we're getting married.
And I'm not going to thank you for it.
Yeah, not gonna thank you for it. And I love another thing that it should have been on my dislike list is when she
bonus dislike.
Yeah, bonus dislike is when she was talking about how she met this man. He's just like you, Dad, but brilliant. Like implying that her dad is like some sort of dum-dum. Ungrateful.
But how many times have we accidentally said that about somebody not meaning to, you know?
She's 22. She hasn't lived.
Work with computers, Dad, not your dumb shoes.
He's
Gosh.
a genius. Like he's the smartest person ever.
You preferred SCTV's Chariot of Eggs, Baba. All right, that's great. And yeah, thanks for those $250. Appreciate that. But guys, we're going to move over to our spiritual speculation section. I don't really know how much we're going to have. We sort of have some floating ideas we may talk about. There wasn't a lot of that we saw spiritually in this film, at least at this point. If you are a supporter, you'll get to access to that content and find out how we did. But thank you all for hanging out. Sean, Bobo, Ken, let's see, I think there are some other people here. Serge Azil. Thank you for following Brody Staples 277. Appreciate that. Let's see. Anyone
Didn't
else?
somebody
And-
say that the audio was playing? Who said that?
Well, they could hear it. Yeah, they said that before. Free Hug said that. Ken said it.
Yeah.
Stacy, you were here. Christopher Bowles. I don't know if you're still around, but thank you. And thank you for always, Christopher, thank you for always like reposting stuff. You and Ashley are on Twitter. Yeah, on X.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. But yeah, we're gonna head out. We're gonna do our stream face, and we'll catch you. I'll be back on Friday for it's gonna be a watch me and interact with me while I work on the rule book for Junkyard Juggernauts. If that sounds interesting, it's like sort of like a work with me stream. And then
so you and Cellcast are like streaming on the same nights now.
I guess
because he was. Yeah,
I think he's doing it earlier than I am though. I don't start till 8:30 p.m. Pacific. So anyway,
They can raid you.
that's neither here nor there. Until next time, guys. Here's your stream face.